Who wants to lead the meeting today? I'm at a conference, so I don't have the ideal setup today.
I also prefer to not lead the meeting. It's okay.
I can give it a try. There's a chance that the power company shows up and turns off my power. So one of you will have to take over if that actually happens.
Perfect.
We have Johan today. Johan is from the application runtime deployments working group. And we want to discuss the FIPS, FIPS and how CF deployment can consume the stem cells produced in our working group.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm here for. So I hope to have some news for us.
Does it make sense to start? I think it's good to start with that topic, right?
That's
Yes.
good.
Hey. Hello. Are we already producing? I know we don't have the VIPS bits yet, but are we already putting private VIPS stem cells that are not VIPS yet in a bucket? Is that part already done? I don't know. We had a PR to this stem cell building pipeline that was merged.
What was merged?
There was stem cell CI changes, right? That would
Oh
start
yeah,
building the...
yeah. A bit for FIPS, and today I pushed some stuff for the published stem cell builder where we did the checks for the AWS Lite stem cell builder was paused, and when I enabled them, they didn't work properly. So.
Do we already have a heavy stem cell in a private bucket?
For FIPS? No.
Yes. Okay, what's the blocker there?
We don't have FIPS packages.
Yeah, but we don't need them to put a stem cell in a private bucket, right? Like it's about the interface.
That didn't work because then we came with the conclusion that putting FIPS in the operating system variable of the manifest, that Bosch didn't like to compile compiled packages. So we needed to change something in the stem cell builder, which I did today.
Okay.
And currently, because of all these things that we need to change, and we need to when we are now building when I enabled this in the stem cell builder again, because it's the job is already there basically. But the problem is if I enable it again, the metalink files which is created in the same directory structure, and our tasks keep the same. Just aggregate. There's those star all YAMLs, and I will just try to aggregate everything into one bucket, and this doesn't work. So when we were talking about, oh yeah, we're also going to change how we are going to do the FIPS, the variant, I thought, okay, I'm going to hold back on namespacing that until we have finally a clue of how we are going to name this stuff.
I think these are too much details for Johan.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. In short, I'm still wondering how we can consume the FIPS stem cell. Do we have to download it from some private S3 bucket and then upload it to our test environment? or someone else mentioned it would be shared as a light stem cell in an AWS account. So that's still not clear to me.
So I think the best thing to do is because we're already putting the MetaLink information about where in which bucket it resides and which version number of the stem cells already resides in the Bosch IO core stem cells repo, I think. And that already contains all the information that you basically need. So if we would make a resource that would just in Concourse that would just basically check if there is a new version available, it would then basically you'd be able to use like I can use this AWS
Like
link.
you could just point it. You can use a Concourse resource to just point at a bucket, right? That's way easier. And every new stem cell that ends up in that bucket, you can just consume. Or do we want?
That depends on because we have multiple stages of where we.
I see.
Where we have like when we build the stem cell.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the
candidates.
We have two stages, basically the dev and then the aggregated one, and it will move it into the next bucket. But I don't think we're ever going to aggregate it into a single file for all how we are currently using all the MetaLink stuff for we're also never going to release it on Bosch.io, am I right?
Yeah, it should not go on Bosch.io.
So maybe we should just drop the whole MetaLink stuff anyways. And then we would just
ideally at the end of the publish, we just put it in a bucket, right? I think that's the easiest interface, and that's actually all we need.
Yeah, but the question is, Johan, do you prefer a full stem cell or white stem cell?
They can't be light. Because light stem cells have to be public, right?
No.
No, you can't.
We already tested it internally, so you can also provide a light stem cell that is private.
Okay. So that means we have to download a full stem cell from Bucket and then upload it to our Bosch environment.
Yes.
Okay, good. Fine.
Wait. No, Mark, you just said you could use a light stem cell, right?
Yes, so we're currently implementing a mechanic to create a light stem cell that is private and then share it between accounts. And we currently implement it in the AWS Light Stem Cell Builder. So it's an option to use this also in the open source community. The idea is that you create a stem cell, a light stem cell as before with all the metadata. But if you not share the AMI with the account can still simply not use it. And with that, the light stem cell is not an issue anymore. You can also publish this on Bosch.io, but only accounts that have access to the AMI can use it. So with that, it would be also very easy to share it with the other working groups.
Okay, that also sounds fine.
But then we need to maintain all those KMS IDs and secrets, right? For separate accounts.
You can also share them. So the only change is that you must share the resources that you create in your account with other accounts. If I don't know, do we use one AWS account for all our pipelines, or do we use different ones?
So each working group has basically its own AWS account.
Yeah, then you must simply, if we create a new light stem cell, we must share all resources that we create. So the AMI, the snapshot of the AMI, and the KMS key of the snapshot, share with all the accounts, and then they can consume the light stem cell as before. And all other users that are where we not share the AMI can not use the light stem cell. So the light stem cell is useless for them.
But this is anyway for all internal working groups anyways, right? So it's not this whole thing, right?
Yeah, but with that we ensure that the license is not published to someone else.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the benefit of this solution is that you do not have to manage keys, right? Otherwise, we would have to distribute private credentials to different working groups, which is a bit like difficult to keep track of. And with this, you do it like a working group would share their account ID, and then we can give access to that account. And if the credentials need to be updated, you do that in one place, right? That's the difference. You can update the KMS key, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you simply update the policy. So you have a policy, and in the policy you can share it with other accounts. That's already available on AWS.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I mentioned, we currently implement that because we need it internally. So I think would be nice if we use the same solution also upstream.
Yeah, sounds good. But that makes it a bit more work. Like how far is that?
Well, the PR is already there. It needs to be reviewed. This morning I was working to get the pipelines that are double checking this repository, the AWS Light Stem Cell Builder, that has some acceptance tests and unit tests. And there is currently only one failure within it, so I need to fix that.
But it's not fully functional. We still must adapt it a little bit.
I thought the PR was out of draft, and it was.
Yeah, we split it into 3 PRs. I think that's the second one, and then there will be the next PR.
So what's in the PR is fully functional.
Yeah, that's right. But we're missing some functionality that we will deliver in the third PR, right?
To share then light stem cell across accounts. So this is just that you can create light stem cells with private KMS keys and share them across regions. So you don't need to use the AWS managed KMS key, which is bound to your account, right? And then the next PR is to share it across account boundaries.
Yeah. Would it make sense to also have a fourth PR to the docs, Bosch.io docs, or something on how to consume such a stem cell?
No, that doesn't make sense at all.
But then we need a fifth PR, how to publish it.
I mean, the publishing part, like nobody should. Oh yeah, actually, yes, people probably like. Ideally, yeah, that would be nice as well.
Yeah,
I think it would be nice to make cave paintings with ASCII art. How to explain?
Johan, maybe on the other side, is it more work for you if it's a white stem cell? Or it doesn't matter whether it's a white or full stem cell on the CF deployment side?
It won't make much of a difference, yeah. This is just one part in the validation pipeline, retrieving the stem cell, uploading it to our test Bosch. So
the only annoying thing is that the Bosch Create Env will not work with AWS full stem cells.
But they don't have to use Bosch Create Env, right? They can just have they don't have to use a VIP stem cell for the Bosch directory.
No, I understand, but just so you know, this is the only thing that.
Well, the plan is to use a Bosch bootloader as we do for all of our other validation pipelines.
Then it's fine. Then you just
upload. And then we need to upload the stem cell somehow to the Bosch director. That's the task.
So then I would say we could do it in we could just put it in a bucket, a heavy stem cell in a bucket, and then soon after, when the light publishing is available, we can change that, right? That would make it easier to consume it or faster to consume it.
Yeah, just a resource for that bucket that just keep track of the new incoming files.
The The stem cells are stored in GCS buckets, and the GCS resource lets you use a regex. So you could probably write a regex to find any new FIP stem cells and capture their versions.
Yeah, we store it in GCS buckets. So.
And we're going to have to do a bunch. So in order to get to the light stem cell, we have to do a bunch of work in the stem cell builder anyway, because you can't get a light without a heavy. So we're going to have to build the heavy, make the heavy private in some way in a bucket anyway. So we might as well give the other working groups access to that until we figure out the light portion of it, the KMS keys.
Yeah.
And then maybe the third part is exposing that somehow in Bosch.io. Probably not on the main index of stem cells, but if you ask for the FIP stem cell, the Bosch.io resource will find it for you. It's just not indexed, but it's still available.
So you want to have it available with the API when you check the Bosch.io and not the...
Yeah. Also the web page, like the web page will give you anything that's like not even published. It just is an index into those Git repos. So you can browse to it, but it just doesn't show up on the default index page.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's again with the names, how we currently, it's namespaced. Because it Bosch.io only tracks the Bosch core stem cell repo for all these things.
And the light stem cell repo, the one that's called CPI index or something.
Yeah, that's the same. But that would be only when we have the light stem cell builder ready, because then it will be once it goes into the published stem cell pipelines. There it creates the AWS light stem cell, and that's also where it updates that repo. So it's again all with the metalink stuff. So if you want to keep it on Bosch.io, we need to have that metalink info file,
which is good for keeping track of stuff anyway. Otherwise, things concourse, we've never stayed on one concourse for too long, and if that's our only history of this stuff, other than going and browsing through a bucket, it's always the metalinks at least provide a nice central repository of these artifacts are dev, these are the published ones.
And would you rather have it like, we can look at the directory structure later, but now it's basically like Ubuntu Jemmy / version number. Yeah. So you have version number and then all the metadata, but this is the published.
These are the heavy ones, yeah.
But these are all the published ones, so we are never going to put it in the published, right?
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I mean,
we first get dev, and after it's going to aggregate phase, it's going to candidate, and from there on it will be, if it's going to publish, it will create an extra entry.
Or do we just, well, we're never making them publicly available, but do we just keep the same lifecycle and put them in published?
I mean, they are technically published just for a smaller audience.
And that makes it simpler.
But they're never really published, because what we're currently doing is like if the stem cell is running, it will put a new one in dev every time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in here, which is like kind of obnoxious for people consuming, if people were consuming all the stuff in here.
Because then it would be like when we press the published one, we also basically publish FIPS, the FIPS stem cell. And that's also fine with me, but then we need to go through the whole pipeline, and then we really need to go we really need to adjust also the scripts about when the metalink stuff is going to be aggregated and what we're going to use.
But published means that's when you're also going to pick the version, right?
Yes, it will then get the version that it's actually there. The latest version where you put on published.
Yeah, so it would be good if those versions of the VIP stem cells match the normal stem cells.
Yeah, but then I need to double check in the aggregate steps about how we are going to keep it in here, and we don't have overlaps. But currently we have overlaps because when we now build the Gemini FIP stem cell and we're not using the FIPS variant, that's where we currently have the problem, is that it doesn't do the file renaming as well. So that's why currently that job is paused, because we cannot actually build the variant. So the manifest is the variant, but the stem cell name itself is not with the FIPS file name. And that's get everything confused right now. So I'm waiting until we actually can build a FIP stem cell, until we can go through this whole process. In the meantime, I can just.
How much work is it to update the variant so that we can build it now with the name changed? Because it would be really good to, because there's like 8 steps in this process. It'd be really good to build it now without the FIPS packages, so we can ensure that like everything ends up where it is with the right security permissions, as opposed to like, oh, the FIPS one accidentally is live and public and indexed here.
Well, it cannot go because it's specifically built in a different bucket, so it does not matter what happens. This is only about that meta for stem cell, the MetaLink file. The actual tarball is always in a private bucket. Does not matter what we do; it will stay there. And this will also always link to that. So what you see here, that URL, it's just that version. It will stay there, no matter in what part it is. If it's in dev, if it's a dev candidate or whatever, it never changed.
So I'm confused. So why can't we build the FIPS one now? Where does it conflict?
Currently, when we cannot build the FIPS stem cell because there are no FIPS packages.
Not that part. Why can't the pipeline be unpaused?
Because if I now unpause it, because what I did is I thought I could fake it by just say, okay, we're doing the FIPS. We're not really building the FIPS variant. So we're building basically another AWS stem cell.
Right. So can we change it so that we turn the variant on and that builds successfully, but just doesn't have the packages in it? Can we make that change for now so that we can get all the pipeline working even though we don't have the packages?
Then we need to uncomment a lot of code within the stem cell builder repo. Because when we put in the variant, it goes through a whole heap of enabling UA, enabling the canonical FIPS repo, which is not there. And then it wants to have to install the packages, etc. But it's placed all in different things. It's not like commenting out one line and yay, it works. I tried that. I needed to change like 30 lines of code.
I think you can comment out the stages, right?
No, it's not in the stages part. It's way before that. There's already a prescript which go to the UA something.
The prelude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. And
we're not going to solve it. We're not going to solve it in this call, I believe. Like, we should probably maybe have a separate call to go more in depth, but that's with a smaller group.
Yes.
Yeah,
as far as how they're going to consume it, though, the ideal is heavy in the short term, light in the long term. Ideally from Bosch.io, but that might be medium or long term. But we'll definitely have it in a bucket in the first spot.
No, I think we can keep it in the published one, because what I do now then is I don't namespace it. It's just going to be called AWS Ubuntu Gemini FIPS. So it has the different name, and it will just get, when we get into the aggregate step, it will just be in this list. The only problem is that we need to change Bosch.io a little bit, that it does not. That it excludes the FIPS steps.
No, I think the index on Bosch.io, you need to add those headings you need to add manually anyway, right?
I'm not
Possibly.
sure.
So they might just show up, but that's something that we can figure out. Like we definitely know it'll be in a bucket that we can index, and then we can see if it's on Bosch.io or decide if that's a small amount of work to make it show up there. But one of those two spots should have it as sort of the first location to consume it.
When do we expect that to happen?
Well, I thought if the stem cell, if the APT is going to be ready next week anyways, I thought, well, we can wait just 2-3 days and then we don't have to fiddle with fiddle with the stem cell builder code. And we just say, okay, this is it. And we can deploy one.
I see.
That was my initial thought, but if it's going to take way longer, then if next week's is also like Canonical says, yeah, well, we're not ready yet, then I think we just should work on it.
Okay. But yeah, that would be like mid next week, right? Then we know.
Yeah.
So well, by the end of next, but go ahead.
Yeah, I will just tomorrow. I will just comment out all the code and get it to work with when we set the FIPS variant, and I will just get it tarball out.
Yeah.
I will just work around it then. So that the stem cell builder actually built something.
Yeah, I think it would be good that we know our pipelines work, right? And that the publishing part works. That we've
okay. Fine.
Anything else on FIPS stuff?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Johan whether he has any questions or anything.
Well, whenever you're ready and you have something that we can consume, just keep me in the loop so that we can proceed.
Yeah, as soon as I have something, like we have something in the pipeline, I will paste it in the CF FIPS channel anyways.
Yep. Okay, great.
All right. Let's move on to the next agenda item, 2-letter country codes. What's the update on this?
It's me.
I heard a sigh at first, which sounds about right.
Already typing the agenda. I like that. Well, we can. I've written that in the issue basically. Yeah, the country is not necessary in the subject, but whenever we remove it, suddenly all the VMs are unresponsive because suddenly no agents can connect to NATS anymore. And that's bad. So we cannot do that in one shot. But there is, I'm just summarizing the issue actually. Sorry, what was your question?
I was going to ask if it breaks if you do it the other way. If you remove the country from the NATS config validation stuff, does everything break there also? Does it have to be exactly at the same time, or?
In fact, I was thinking about the way we update the CS certificate. For a given time, we are trusting two certificates. The problem is that the subject is equal to the username for agents on NATS. The problem is there, and actually the way we update CS certificate is. I suddenly realized it's not a solution because there would be one old certificate on the old CA, one new certificate on the new CA. The problem would be that the subjects would be different. we would need the thinker to put both usernames to allow both usernames in the permissions or during the transition.
So this authorization code here, where you got this big string that's got the country in it, if you just remove, does this whole string have to match, or like, can you just delete this part and it will just match on the rest of it?
Any part is optional, actually. Any relative distinguished name is optional. You can remove the country, you can remove the organization, but common name is the part that makes those difference. So that matters. That's the subject is different. The username is different between different users.
So can we just delete these segments here, and then that makes the problem a lot easier?
No, because if you remove the countries here, the NATS thinker
so they're optional as far as they're optional as far as the certificate goes, but this still has to match. Whatever pieces you put in here has to be on the generated certificates for the auth to work. I wasn't sure if this was make sure that the common name is this and make sure that the org is this. But if you don't specify country here, it's fine if the cert has a country still. But that's not the way it works.
No, I mean, it's just to be understood like a username. And so it has to match between the authorization and the client certificate. That's just it. And one agent has one username depending on which certificate it is using to authentify. But both has to be authorized during the transition between old usernames and new usernames. And this could happen.
This is an array. Can't we just add both entries in here?
Of course.
Doesn't that fix everything?
I guess so, and it could happen during a rollout of a new NATS CA certificate. So we could just have operators do it at their own pace. I mean, at the time we have a new CA certificate, NATS CA certificate with 2 letters country code. We use that and put that in the generated client certificates, and we authorize both. Until the old CA is removed.
Yeah, so we duplicate this on the auth side. So we have US and USA entries in here. And then we make the changes behind the scenes so that it only generates US. That'll work with this BOSH director moving forward. And then at some point, years in the future, when somebody sees this again, we delete the USA entries from here.
Shouldn't we just remove the country? Like, if we're gonna do this painful migration, shouldn't we remove the country? Because not everybody is actually running it in the US, so maybe
I disagree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, so remove the country but leave the country on the other entries, and then 5 years from now we can actually delete the country ones from the auth here.
Just, the idea is that we could make it at the same time as we roll out a new NATS CA certificate.
Yes. So for any individual BOSH director, once they've gone through NATS CA cert rotation after consuming a director that eliminates the country code, then they could remove these entries. But as far as removing them from the config globally, I mean, we could feature flag it, or we could just leave it here for a few years and then delete it, basically.
We are already tracking if they have gone through, like, we know when they are going through an upgrade, right?
So we could automatically feature flag it, I guess. I don't know.
Feels like we have that field, right, where we know that they
we know when a VM generated its NATS CA,
yeah.
It feels like a lot of code to add, and then you're going to have more code in here rather than just having duplicate entries in here for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe duplicating entries for quite some time would be the easiest way.
Yeah, I mean, I would say feature flagging it. Because then you can also, like, if you know that you have gone through a NetCA rotation, you can just take it out. Take the duplicate entries out.
It's not really related. It was just an idea to have, but it's not so much related. I mean, the NetCA is just signing the certificate. Here, the problem is the username.
No, but the NetCA thing is like, if you're going through a NetCA rotation, then you know that you're going to generate new leaves, which will have no country code in it. That's why you want to tie it to that. But that's too much code. It's too much work for such a thing.
Okay. You've read what I've written in the issue, possibly already, or maybe not. It was quite long.
At a conference. Yeah.
I confess. You've been at the conference. Okay.
There's a lot of scary details in there.
Yeah, but there's the details of the testing. From the title, that's out doesn't need the country code RTN.
Yeah.
Insert subject. So, but the first part is just what I've just summarized.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we feature flag and duplicate entries, it's
and then move to removing the country code. I think then.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good path forward.
And you can, in theory, do the. I'm sorry. Remind me again. This is in the Bosch director, but there was other stuff elsewhere in like CredHub and like some other entries that were also using 3-digit country codes. Do those relate to this at all, or no?
Not completely. I mean that in CredHub we could start generating certificates with correct country code right now.
Okay.
No impact. It wouldn't have any impact. It has no impact on the subject of the leaves certificate. You can choose whatever you want as subject in the leaves.
So then so this problem is isolated. So yeah, we can make like this exact change as long as we duplicate the auth entries at that same commit, and then nobody's gonna have any potential downtime or anything. Seems like a good direction.
And with generated certificates, we currently have the possibility to tweak the organization. It's maybe not documented, but I was working on that, on improved documentation. But yeah, in the variables block of a deployment manifest, you can say a certificate is for a certain organization, but you cannot do that for country. That was the remark of Guillaume in the first place. Maybe we could add country.
Does this impact the what is it? The short-lived, the thing that generates the NATS config? There's something that runs at runtime, and when VMs are created, it updates the NAT security, right?
Yeah.
That was the code you were looking at, right?
Was it? I thought that was just the global config. That wasn't just in NATS, right? That's just NATS config. There's something that dynamically generates config also.
It's in the NetSync gem. So it's in SRC, NetSync, yeah, and it's user sync, I think. But there is a help. The main part is in the helper.
NATS auth config.
NATS auth config, possibly. Yeah, that's the template for each user. So that's where we decide that the username will be this one. And see here.
So this we need to duplicate also, then, right?
That's
or is this is yeah. Which is gonna, we talked about last time, I think this is gonna double the number of entries, so doubling isn't normally a major concern. But I guess also if we feature flag it, then that feature flag could leak down to here also, so that if it does cause a problem, somebody could get away from the double entries by turning the feature flag off at least. Would mean they have to do a full CA rotation first, but like once you did that, then you could eliminate the double entries.
But then I think it's basically two feature flags, right? One is opting into like removing the country codes, and then the other one is enabling the two double entries. You basically want to enable both at the same time, and then like over time, you can disable the double entries.
If you think the double entries are a major risk, then yes. Yeah.
No, but like, I mean, you cannot enable it and then disable it, because then you...
Well, you could enable it, be like, man, this is like causing some performance problems. And then rather than turning it off, just going through a full CA rotation and then turning it off. So like, yes, we see that Nats is lagging, and maybe we had to scale up the director or something to get around that. But like, it wouldn't be a permanent thing, because you could then get through the CA rotation and then turn off the double entries to only have the new ones. But if we're concerned about that,
how would you only get the new ones?
The feature flag? I assume the feature flag was only going to I assume the feature flag is there to keep the USA ones. Maintain legacy Nats user country nonsense. True.
Okay, so the maintain, but that means that you need to opt in for an existing environment.
It depends on what the default set to.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it would have to be on, it would have to be on by, well, oh right, the double entries. Yeah.
There are three states: one with USA, one with both, one with with no country. So you need at least two booleans to model three states. That's mathematical, I mean.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I mean, I've had too much conference for a week, so I mean,
you can have a single boolean though for whether or not duplicate entries are generated in the auth config. And then so right now, if you just turn that on, we have to have that on by default. If we then have the generation always do the new method, so you just have that on by default. Generation does the new method. You're going to be in a mixed state immediately then. As new VMs are created, they will be created with the no country. But since you have double auth, it works. And then as you update everything and do a full NAT CA rotation, then you can switch over to turning the Boolean the other way. And then basically the duplicate auth entries just disappear.
Yeah,
but it does mean that you don't have a choice. Yeah, go ahead.
How the director and NatSync knows that when you turn it off, they have to go back to no country or USA country?
There would be no way of going back to USA country, basically. Generation would always be USA country, or no country. But then the Boolean only controls whether the auth has duplicate entries of both USA and non-USA.
Yeah, but that would be a breaking change, so the default needs to be double entries, right? So you can opt out over time of the double entries.
I mean, it's not a breaking change in that nothing breaks with the new default, but breaks if you turn the flag
Everything.
off.
Yeah, it breaks when so the flag will be on by default with the double entries.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that could work.
Oh, cool.
Now we just need a PR.
Yeah.
And the Nats config looks easy. This part, I don't know how this works. This might be a disaster just because, like, I'm assuming that, well, it's probably fine. It probably loops through. I was thinking like, it probably assumes that each VM generates one cert right now, one config entry, and now they're going to be generating two. I don't know if that's going to go against the way this code is written, but it's code. It's fixable if that is the case.
You can probably call agent user twice with an boolean or something.
I don't know. There might be just assumptions layered in here somewhere, but
we need to try something and see what happens. What are the problems exactly?
Yeah.
But still, the first ideas are correct and interesting to follow. Discussion on the names. Yeah, I've read. Yeah. So let me summarize. I was working on a Bosch release. Then I said, okay, in my ERB templates, when I use the spec special object, what do I have exactly at hand? Then I said, okay, let's look in the code, and I saw that there are still many names called templates in server job.
I want to be cautious of time, because we ideally these things we submit as like issues, right? Because issues we address at the end, because I want to give priority to open PRs, right?
No
that
problem.
We make sure
Indeed.
that we get through the open PRs and make sure that we get those reviews.
Okay, I see also the time that is already. Oh yeah.
Here's an open PR.
Yeah, let's do the PRs first.
So this one's probably gonna need to be changes based upon what we were just talking about, or is this just no? So this is just the generation code. Oh no, this was just changing. Yeah,
this is changing the way the CLI is generating certificates.
Oh, the config server, right.
And only Bosch CLI is using it. It has no impact on CredHub.
This was Ruby, right? Or was this Go?
Golang.
Okay, sorry. Then I look. Oh yeah, sorry, I see. I thought we also had a. Is this the example config server implementation?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is consumed by the Bosch CLI.
Yeah.
And this doesn't impact when you do a Bosch create imb, the Nats CA certs at all?
Yeah. So if you have the CLI generate the variables, then yes, it has an impact on the Nats CA. But I mean, it's a normal Nats CA rotation. The new Nats CA is going. I mean, it has no impact on the subject of the leaves certificates.
Yeah. Okay.
The leaves are generated by the director.
So the leaves don't. The leaves the leaves don't. Nobody's checking the country code on the CA. Then.
Yes.
Okay.
Nobody.
Sounds reasonable then. And we already have some reviewers. Oh, I'm there. Somebody should look at this. Who's a reviewer? All right, I'll get a chance to look at that soon.
But I think maybe it's the do not merge command there.
That guy needs to retract that statement. Did we talk about this one? No, we didn't. So this is part of the FIPS work in theory, which is the current Linux stem cell builder. When you build a FIPS variant, the stem cell metadata inside the stem cell.mf file, the metadata file inside of the tarball, there is a name, an OS, and a version. So current FIPS stem cell builder variant updates the OS to be Ubuntu Jammy FIPS. And if you do this, you can't reuse compiled packages. So if you compiled for Ubuntu Jammy 123 and you try to use it for Ubuntu Jammy 123, Ubuntu Jammy FIPS 123, BOSH director is like, no, they have different OSs. It doesn't work. We theorized that compiled packages should be usable by both. I think Ramon did some validation on that, deployed CF deployments with compiled packages from one, but with an actual FIP stem cell, and it worked. So they do seem to be compatible in the real world. So the current plan, I believe, is to, rather than putting a -FIPS on the OS, because BOSH is like, those are different things then, is instead we embed the FIPS into the name of the stem cell. So it would be, you know, one of these fabulous flags where we already have hypervisor and format and infrastructure and agent version for some reason, also add the FIPS thing there. So it'll be Ubuntu Jammy, Ubuntu Jammy 123 FIPS and Ubuntu Jammy 123. The only difference in the metadata between those is in the name. Now the problem is, in order to deploy a stem cell we do a lot of this these days, where in your deployment manifest, you say, here's my stem cell section, and I just want an Ubuntu Jammy OS version latest or whatever. So if you have on the same director a FIPS and a non-FIPS, those now look the same. So it's just going to pick one randomly, which maybe you're fine with, probably not. So if you actually have a mixed mode, you need to specify the name of the stem cell in the stem cell section, not the OS. Saying, I want this stem cell FIPS, non-FIPS, whatever, version, whatever. And everything works great. That works fine. BOSH will do the right thing, reuse compiled packages from one or the other as long as the OS matches. The problem is runtime configs don't work at all, because runtime config placement rules let you place a runtime config job with a matching criteria of, oh, stem cell OS is this. It doesn't actually look at what your stem cell OS is. It only looks at the manifest that the stem cell OS is that thing. So that means that sort of if we move to this new world for, if you're using FIPS, we have to specify the name. The runtime configs just don't get placed on any of those things. So the solution we came up with was somewhere in deployment plan generation is basically like, hey, if the OS is blank, look up the stem cell by the name and the version and fill in the OS so that the runtime configs then get placed correctly. That was a very long explanation for what is 4 lines of code. But in fairness, it took us like 3 hours to find these 4 lines of code.
Well, I also needed to double check this. Like, what did they mean here?
Yeah, and we could drop the Go agent in the name of the stem cells, possibly.
Yeah, what is in the name, like that can definitely be cleaned up in theory.
I'm already working on that, so it's just removing one entry, so I can remove it if you want.
Doesn't seem like it's providing value at this phase in time, so might as well remove it.
Yeah,
we'll remove that.
Yeah, interesting. I will think of the impact offline.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Live. If you think of any issues with this, throw them in here. BOSH docs. I'm gonna look at those. Let's look at the non-docs one first. Okay, this is the thing that we talked about, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk more about it, or do we just throw some reviewers on it?
There are already reviewers.
Is it? Those are suggestions.
Oh, suggestions, sorry.
It's tricking us, thinking more job's already done. All right, we'll let the reviewers
figure out. Suggestion.
I don't trust the suggestion. See, it was wrong. Bad suggestions. Recreate with VM without wait.
Yeah, that was the documentation. There was some, you responded in the Slack messages 3 weeks ago.
Yes. So
Then
yeah,
found it.
the Resurrector, when you do it without waiting, it just doesn't run part of the life cycle. I'm most surprised that recreate without wait was the only option when the Ghost CLI was first created, and it just didn't work. And I made Dimitri add the waiting one. Like everything would just fail. This seems good. Make that more clear.
I've seen some bug when I do a Bosch CCK with recommended automatic resolution of VM recreation with waiting. It is actually writing in the output, I'm not waiting for the process to start. So it's strange. Yeah. Well,
be good.
Next time I do a CCK, I can think of it.
This is change about the certs rotation docs. Give us a summary of what was wrong with these?
Oh,
or is it just more
nothing
clarity?
wrong. It's just, more clarity. Here we can see the limitation link. Actually, the limitation section had disappeared 2 years ago. So that was the start of the review. And then from one thing to another, it turned out to that.
All right. I'm just gonna sneak yes, Brian Upton on there, since he does a lot of certificate rotation work.
A lot of doc changes.
I know.
Awesome.
Azure Storage.
It's
all right.
It's trendy. It's hype.
Yeah.
Bosch is
I
hype.
know. Everybody is liking Bosch again.
I am not gonna add reviewers to this.
They have all shut down their Kubernetes cluster. They start wanting to use Bosch.
All right. And the final. This is probably
this is still dependent on the PR of global CLI flags, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I just thought I added here already a documentation. Yeah, but it's depending on the other PR.
Okay, so we'll hold off on adding reviewers to this one for now.
Yep.
Oh, it's written Felix, but you are Felix Müller?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, great.
All right, I think we are at time. Is there anything else we need to go over urgently? Otherwise, we can.
We can postpone to next week.
Yeah, so we didn't get to either of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have some VIP stuff, but we can do that in a different. We can do that offline.
Okay. Sounds good.
Regarding the global flags for the CLI for that PR,
mm-hmm.
Should we add reviewers there already, or?
Oh, which PR is that?
It's in the Bosch CLI. Not sure if it's listed here. The one that was linked in the documentation.
The fourth one. Enable global flags for deploy command. 634.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Okay.
I've read a bit the code. Right. I need I need a bit more time. If you go to files changed, Joseph, please, and then to the big if then else below here. That from line, those lines. It's not clear enough. I'm going to suggest you some pseudocode that it's easier. and I just need to verify that my pseudocode is not crappy. It is really in line with what we do elsewhere, but it's much simpler. And
sure.
And then the improvement in the message, I agree with the other reviews, but yeah, I will do this offline.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
The packet capture one, what's the status of the first one?
I think some updates happened last week, and with regard to the SSH stuff, and then Brian just had a couple linting issues. And then I assume he already approved it, but yeah, probably wait for those linting issues to get fixed so the very important linter doesn't go red.
Yeah, maybe ping deal.
Yeah, when this was
last week.
3rd? And no commits. Yeah. Okay. I'll ping them and see if those can get cleaned up so this can get closed.
Weren't they going on vacation or something? Or one day? Or were they in vacation? No.
Yeah, maybe. I'll put a message in here regardless.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
We filled the whole time again.
Next time we talk about Rubocop.
Oh.
Yeah, we should invite Aaron. He has opinions.
Okay. See you.
See you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.